So what do you do when you don't know where you're going to be playing next season? How do you handle it? Who do you talk to? Do you have an agent or an advisor? Do you go and make emails? Do you go into a million camps? What starts to happen as you get closer and closer to August and the deadline of finding a team to play for? These are just some of the questions that'll be swirling around in your head as spring and summer progress, and then all of a sudden you're in panic mode. Today we're going to talk about how to handle the unknown, how to go about business as usual, like you have a team. There's definitely a good way to handle it and definitely a not so good way to handle it. And today we're going to talk about that. We're going to get into it and I'm going to help you out. Hello and welcome back to the channel. I don't know if you watched last week's video, but it was about the spring audit, after the season is done or your season's ending, on how to go about managing your off season, especially up here, is what I was really talking about in last week's video. I also mentioned that I was going to be doing another video this week, this one, and we were going to talk about more of the specifics of all of the challenges that can arise, and I like to call it the unknown. And you can be in this mental limbo during spring and summer, and it can be pretty hairy if you don't know where you're going. Younger kids can definitely take some notes, even if you're in minor hockey, to learn how to manage this stuff. But especially as you head into junior and obviously into pro, there's lots of times where you have no idea where you're going, what team you're going to be on, what league you're going to be in. It can be pretty nerve-wracking and stressful. And it's hard to go about business as usual, your training and on ice, off ice, when you have no idea where you're going to play. So today we're going to talk about that. I'm going to help you out with that and kind of calm your mind, give you some tools on how to calm your mind so you can have a really good off season and train and have some good space for yourself. So when you do end up finding somewhere to go, that you're just still rolling as usual and not in this panic mode. So here's the scenario. You're in the off season and you have no idea where you're playing next year and you don't have an agent. So it's left basically up to you. You don't know what the steps are. It can be really challenging. It's kind of like you're in this waiting room. Lots of times when you're a young kid and you're going into junior or wanting to go into junior and you're a good goalie, but you haven't had all the accolades and the focus hasn't been on you, it can be really tough on knowing how to go out there and get some opportunities. You know, Finding an agent or an advisor can be a good thing, but still, regardless of whether you have one or you don't, you really have to be proactive and take the bull by the horns, take ownership of your own career, and do some things to make sure that people are, helping you out. Find the people in the know that can maybe guide you in the right direction, whether it be an advisor or people that you have played for in minor hockey that might have some connections, etc. But it's kind of funny because I'll use an example that is pretty close to me, and that was my one son who is a goalie. He played junior and pro, but I remember I was very hands off and let him do his thing. I felt it very important that he find his own way. One of the things, though, that was a challenge for him was keeping up on this other stuff. And he just kind of felt his hard work and his play would speak for themselves, which has some validity and truth. But you do have to stay on it, and because no one else is going to do it for you. You might think they will, and you might think that agents and stuff will have your best interests at heart. But sometimes you can get pushed down the ladder, not even know that nothing's being done. And next thing you know, you're behind the eight ball. And my son was a really great example of that. Uh, he was doing great in junior, and schools were looking at him. He'd been flying down to see these schools, and he had verbally committed to Providence. And he ended up kind of, I don't want to say dissing, but he didn't get back to the other schools. He just kind of let it be. And next thing you know, that whole coaching staff for Providence got fired. And he was all of a sudden on the outside looking in and had not done his due diligence and been proactive with the other schools. And then now these other schools had gone and gotten other goalies. So it was a challenge for him. And then he had to fight his way back, and he did a really good job at. But it was he was in the trenches. Even when he came to LA's organization, it was not an easy go for him. So just food for thought. Don't assume everybody's taking care of, your pathway. You want to be on top of it and really try to find people that can help guide you. The next thing I want to bring up is the feeling when you are on social media and you're seeing all kinds of buddies or people that you've played against that you think you're better than are signing or committing to colleges. It can be a real downer. So you have to manage that. And if you're going to be on social media, you have to learn that that's just part of the game. And there are going to be people that get great opportunities, and you can't connect yourself to that. Your life is your own and your pathway is your own. You can't get focused on what other people are doing. I talk about it a lot with clients, and even in training camp situations. That's one of the first things I say at all ages, right from 10 on up, is if there's 6 goalies in camp or tryouts, don't be focusing on them and gauging yourself where you fit. Am I better than this guy? Oh, he did really good in that drill. That is definitely not somewhere you need to be putting your focus towards. It's just a part of the game. And you have to be just focused on what you're doing and working with your agent or finding connections and pushing yourself forward and what you have to do. Don't worry about the other shit. Now, once you have, this in place that you're being proactive, you're really going at it as far as different opportunities for you and what you need to do. There's another part to this, and that leads back to what I was talking about last video, and that's the mental game and staying balanced and not letting this outside stuff get you off your game as far as being balanced and peaceful as to what you need to be doing. That's the biggest challenge. That's why I kind of connected both of these, because if you're really working on yourself in the off season in spring and summer mentally, then this topic becomes a lot easier. It's a strange thing, this business, and I don't like to call it a business, but there is a lot of elements to this that really is just biz. And you have to learn that if you want to be in this, you're going to have to learn how to manage this part of it and how you handle the ups and downs. And this unknown area is one of the toughest things. You have to learn how to manage this part, because if you can't, then I'll be straight up with you. You're not going to survive in the hockey world because it comes at you constantly. You might have a contract. Whoops, sorry about that. I'll shut this off. Sorry. You have to be able to shut this part off as far as the ups and downs, the feelings of not knowing where you're going and not being looked at, and then hitting that panic mode into August. If you can't figure this part out, it's going to be really tough. Now, having said that, I want to tell you, I don't want to scare you, but let's say you start to head into pro. There are lots of times I remember skating with guys that in the summer had no idea where they were going. And the pro skate back when I played, there was only one. So it was like all the NHL guys and all the way down. And then slowly they start dispersing. The NHL guys go first, right? And then American League guys go next if they don't have an NHL deal and they're not going to the NHL camp. They arrive when the AHL splits with the NHL, so they go to their American League camps. Now the skate's a little smaller. And then once the AHL guys are gone, now it's just East Coast League guys, and now the college guys are gone for sure, and junior guys are gone, and now you're really thin. And maybe you don't even have an EHL contract. You're just going to an EHL camp. So there's a lot going on that can throw you for a loop and send you sideways off the path and get negative and get down. Now your training suffers and it can be a real challenge. So the sooner you start to work on the mental side of things and understanding this is part of the biz, the better off you're going to be, and you're going to be able to handle this stuff. I'm not saying that this is just how it is and it's awful. If you I don't want to say harden yourself, but if you get experienced enough that this is just part of it, then you can go about your job and working out, skating and finding skates however you can, and you just understand this is just how it is. And then you can head into your camp, whatever one it is, with a real positive mindset that you've done everything, and you go in there, and then hopefully, God willing, you produce the best product out there and show the best version of yourself. Now, controlling the controllables, big cliche. You hear it all the time, especially in this sport, but it's very true. You know, you can control the stuff that I talked about in calling the GMs if you don't have an agent, emailing the GMs. Uh, you can control all of that, but what you can't control is which ones are going to call you back, what they're going to say, because you might get a lot of no's. So you have to stay vigilant on the mindset and not getting too up or down, like on both ways. You know, you can hear something that sounds really good on paper or on the phone, and it sounds like a great opportunity. But then you find out there's three other guys going with that same email. It's not a bad thing, but you just want to take it for what it's worth and take it as maybe a possible opportunity. Stay kind of here. Don't go too high or too low. When you get the no, just go, okay, next, and just keep pushing, keep working, and hopefully something comes up and you just keep on what you're supposed to be doing, and that is working on your game and staying in shape, and then hopefully something pans out. But I will say this. I tell everybody there's no guarantees about what's going to happen. But you can always feel better about yourself when you go about things properly and you give it your best, both on physically and mentally. And you can walk away however long your career goes with your chin up, your chest out, and be proud of the fact that you did everything you could. If you go about it like that, odds are way, way better. And then, you know, if the right people see you, things can happen. And if you're not in the right mindset, though, you'll often go into these camps or tryouts and you'll struggle here and there because of the stress of it all. And like, this is my only opportunity. I got to make this work. That's going to be really tough. So just stay nice and balanced and grounded and really try to focus on the cliches of controlling the controllables and just focusing on yourself and whatnot. It's kind of funny. So many people get frustrated with that because they hear it a lot, right? And then nothing comes of it. But I think if you really truly believe it, you won't get frustrated when it doesn't happen. You'll keep going. That's the big one. So many people, there's this fork in the road where they think they're doing everything they can and they're doing all the right things. But in the back of their mind, there's this disbelief or pessimism that kind of holds them back. And then when they hit that fork in the road, they get negative or that hurdle and they get stopped because of a negative response or an opportunity closed. They get really negative and they quit. They finally, they pull the pin on it. If you can continue lots of times, not all the time, but lots of times, I see so many guys make careers go on for a long time when it really looked pretty bleak. But I also see for every one of those, there are 100 that just finally give up and go down the other path and say, I'm going to go into regular life and, and call it a day. So just remember this. You're the boss of your own career, no matter where you're at, how old you are. It's not your parents. It's not the GMs or coaches that are going to control how you feel. They're going to do things, they're going to say things, and they're not always going to be the things you want to hear or things that make you feel good. But I always say this to clients. At the end of the day, the ball is in your court. It's your choice on how you handle things. So if you get to work on yourself early, as far as mentally in the spring, and be in control of yourself and what needs to be done, even if you have an agent, you don't have to be calling him every day, but just don't assume. Just be be aware of what's going on, and if there's anything that needs to be done, don't be afraid to make the call. If nothing's going on, that's part of their job. They kind of make you feel sometimes like if there's nothing going on, that why are you calling? But this is your life, right? So there's nothing wrong with if touching base and finding out what's going on, because at the end of the day, sometimes if you don't, like I told you, I've seen it. Things can go sideways, and you didn't even know they were going sideways. Like agents and firms and agencies have a lot of clients a lot of the times, and you may not know it, but they're not always just looking out for you. They got other people, and sometimes you can get pushed down. I want to keep it real for the people that don't know this area. Like lots of times they say, yeah, I reached out to teams and been talking about you. And really all it is a mass email with their client list. And they'll say to the team, if you're interested in any of these, give me a call. And that's the extent of it. I'm not saying that's all agents, but lots of times that's how it goes. So you got to be on it, take control of it, and keep working in the meantime on your physical game and your mental game. Lastly, I just want to send a message out to the parents and your support role in all this, because, truth of the matter is anxiety and stresses are contagious. And if you come across, this is especially for the younger kids, if you come across as anxious, that'll leak into them. So be a rock for them. You can help them out, especially with the younger ones, as far as making the calls and all that kind of stuff. But if you show a level of calm, they will tend to follow suit. If you don't, they will follow suit as well. So just a message to parents that in this time you can be a real help to them for the younger ones. And yeah, I just want this to be a safe haven for them, a place where they can go home and feel confident that everything is going to be okay. You know, they do have to work on it themselves, but parents can play a big role in that. So that's all I got for you. I hope you found this helpful. If you did, please share it with people that you think it might help. And don't forget to smash the subscribe button if you like the content. And we'll talk to you next week. Have a good one. Peace.